Mind games we play with ourselves. Illusions are all around us. Our lives are filled with illusions, false truths, and deception. Some are conscious, but more are subconscious. When no one is managing things like our ego, it can all add quickly to trickery. But who exactly is being tricked? Welcome to Modern Life Keeping. I am your host, Lori Christine. We all play mind games with ourselves. We are literally tricking ourselves so that we don't get upset, playing with ourselves to keep our emotions stable, telling ourselves some other version that makes us feel better. The telltale sign of trickery is defensiveness. Whether it's you or someone you are interacting with, defensiveness is our ego's way of protecting our sense of identity. Our defense skills are automatic. They are psychological strategies our ego uses to reduce negative emotion. The purpose of these strategies is to distort reality in such a way that doesn't generate negative emotion. Our ego is really just protecting our sense of identity. It does this subconsciously. Trickery is a mind game our ego uses to balance our emotions. Instead of allowing feelings of guilt or remorse about an experience, ego will tell you the experience never happened. Ta-da! No negative emotions have to be felt because there is nothing to feel guilty about. Our ego has tricked us into thinking something didn't happen the way it did, so that our emotions remain balanced. Trickery isn't about finding a perspective that serves our highest good. Trickery is a reaction in the moment. When unsupervised, our ego will react to survive. Denial isn't a better feeling thought. It is just one that perpetuates avoidance. The longer we allow our ego to automatically distort our reality, the further we become from true happiness. It all becomes a facade, and we forget who we truly are. When our ego is unsupervised, we might also become stuck in fight, flight, or freeze mode and not even realize we are stuck. Or maybe we do realize we are stuck, but our sense of reality is so distorted that we lack clarity to get unstuck. The moment we avoided the negative emotion, it may have felt good, but the experience is now interpreted through this lens. And the more and more out of focus our lens becomes, the more and more out of touch we are with reality. Reality is what grounds us. Reality is a compass that gives us information about our direction, a canvas for our experiences. When it is distorted, our whole life becomes out of balance. The ego's automatic defense to balance our emotion is to play a mind game on us that distorts our thinking, creates a reality that isn't really real. We just think it is. In modern-day living, few of us have to live in survival mode anymore. We live in a society where we have free will. Awareness of our free will is what allows us to break free from the need to distort our perception in order to endure an experience. Our ego can be our ally or our enemy. When we allow it to distort our reality by becoming defensive, we block the flow of energy within ourselves. We have free will to stop and think before we react in any situation. We can embrace beliefs that support us. As we get to know ourselves, there are so many parts of us to understand. Our ego protects our identity and how we see ourselves. We must consciously choose psychological strategies that serve our highest good. Being in flight, fight, or freeze most of the time is never in our highest good. The first thing you can do to minimize playing mind games with yourself is to take defensiveness off of autopilot. Question how you respond instead of reacting before reflection. When we automatically defend ourselves instead of reflecting on where we may have acted differently or where we could act differently, it's easy to become stuck in toxic patterns. Keeps us in flight, fright, or freeze mode as we go through life, rinse and repeat. We feel like a product in a box on an assembly line. But none of us are products to be put in a box or checked for uniformity and quality. We are individuals. There should be little that our ego has to protect us from anymore. Why do we feel like we have to defend ourselves or even run from conflict? Why might we be consciously part of the trickery by choosing not to examine it? Fear is the first thing that comes to mind. Of course, guilt is also a likely culprit. Perhaps it is just your inner critic. He or she is always the toughest on us. Regardless of why we are playing trickery on ourselves or others, we can still monitor our thinking and program thoughts that match the vibration we want to be at. We can then measure ourselves against our best self. We can choose thoughts that align with the vibration we want to be in. We don't have to be defensive. Ego cannot take awareness from us. We each have the choice to be aware in the moment of our thoughts. Start with understanding why your ego feels defensive. Defensiveness is a way to protect our emotions. Often these emotions are fragile and the result of trauma. Defensiveness may occur when we feel attacked, guilty, hurt, shamed, and/or unsafe. When we exhibit defensiveness, it generally means we are triggered or uncomfortable. Triggers may occur because we are reminded of someone who hurt us or of a past experience, or maybe we are just talking about a past experience that's upset us. Defensiveness may also occur when an individual feels threatened in some way. For example, someone is commenting on your parenting skills. Defensiveness is common when you are guarding things that are near to your heart. The root of this may be in feelings of inadequacy. When you're feeling defensive, remember, don't take what other people say personally. It's usually not about you. Validate what the person is saying as belonging to them, not to you. Take what is useful and leave the rest. Be realistic. Know that people won't like everything about you. And believe that they may not like a behavior of yours, but they still like you. Maintain your boundaries. Be respectful. Be empathetic and curious about what is being said. Consider your own intentions. Evaluate your beliefs and values. And consider alternate explanations for what they are saying or doing than the one you're thinking in the current moment. When someone responds to you in a defensive way, it is best to remain calm and to not take it personally. Consider their feelings. Can you see why they might feel threatened, unsafe, or defensive? What is your intention when speaking your words? Is it constructive or destructive criticism? Is your body language aligned with your intent? You can think back to when you were defensive. What was it about? What triggered it? What made you feel threatened or unsafe? How did you react? How could you have responded? Were you actually threatened, or were you just anticipating it? Do you see any common themes? If you have a pattern of becoming defensive when interacting with specific individuals, like your family, for example, here are some tips. Set ground rules, even if they're just with yourself. Stop mind reading. Stop projecting. Deal with one person at a time. Use objective language. Have a de-escalation plan for yourself. Listen to understand. Breathe and reflect on your own body language and thinking. Validate their experience as theirs. Get grounded and summarize what you heard using I statements. Find areas of agreement. Look for ways to work together versus disagree. Pick your battles and apologize when necessary. There's an abbreviation called BETA: breathe, evaluate, think, and then act. Consciously choose to make ego your friend. Listen to it, monitor it, but most importantly, create a strong sense of self. A strong sense of self is well aware of the trickery their mind can play. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Modern Lifekeeping with Lori Christine, brought to you by Kira Kisses. We can all choose to bring our awareness to our thoughts. We can all acknowledge feelings, allowing them to flow through us, but also being curious about what they are communicating. We can measure these feelings against our potential. We don't need to block them with things like defensiveness. Manage your ego so that you can make the best out of life today. For more information on my individual and parenting support groups, retreats, and services, visit Kira, Keara, kisses.com. Until we meet again, keep wondering.